Fausto Pugliese, president of Cyber Trading University.
Most people always focus on the past, where as a professional day trader, we just focus on the future. You can do very well in trading, and you don't have to have a good amount of movement for the stock to go up.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Fausto Pugliese, and you are on the Cyber Trading Podcast. And I have a great guest I haven't had in a long time. Looking forward to have him on, Ryan from Benzinga. And a lot of people know we use the Benzinga every day in our trading room. We love using it. I use the word swear, but yeah, I swear by it. I love that thing. I'm not here.
I was going to say that's the reason you guys are successful, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, you know what? You know, that's why we love Benzinga. You know what I mean? You know, I remember, Ryan, when Benzinga first came out, you know, and it was a great, and like who are these guys? I mean, it's so funny when you look at it, it's like you're going up against Bloomberg, you're going against a live wire. Like, who the hell do you think you even have a possibility chance of going? And sure enough, look at you guys right now. I mean, it's great. And you got people like me, and you got now institutions are on it. I mean, what a great, great product. But we're going to talk a little bit about it. But before we do that, what have you been up to? How's it been going? You look great.
Yeah, it's been going great. Really, since the election, things have been wild. As I'm sure I don't need to tell your group here, and it's been fantastic for us. I mean, you know, you were given a little intro there. Who is Benzinga? I remember way back in the day, I was a customer, and Benzinga was just this newswire, and that was it. And you know, I'd never heard Benzinga before. I don't know what that is. People would say, "Oh, Benzinga, like the show on TV." No, that's not it. It's just news. It's just news and information. Since then, we've evolved quite a bit. And one of the reasons that's so exciting, one of the reasons we're doing so well now is there's so many different tools in here that is really kind of helping us identify what's going on. And actually, we've released recently, we released a new feature, kind of gets you going in the morning. And I definitely want to share that with your group here today.
Oh, we're definitely going to get to that, but we're going to save the best for last. All right. Because we got a long show. We go for 40 minutes. We got to keep people excited. But yeah, so let me ask you a dumb question. You know, where did they get the name Benzinga? What does actually that mean? Like, where did they get that name from?
So I'll tell you what, I'll give you $100. Just cash straight out of my pocket if you can figure that out and tell me. It's really interesting because we've asked Jason a million times, where does this come from? And we get, you know, little bits and pieces.
I mean, it's not Godzilla. Story. I always think Godzilla.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with Godzilla. It has nothing to do with Godzilla and Sheldon Cooper. So you can scratch those two things off your list.
Right. So I'm not getting him $100. I'm screwed.
But I mean, no, Jason, it's something that had to do with his grandfather. It was a word that he wanted people to remember, so that when you saw it, you were able to like connect that. Okay, news, information, stocks, and you tell me if that's worked, Fausto. You tell me if that's the case.
No, it's great. You know, listen, we had Tom Sosnow from Thinkorswim, and you know, I remember, you know, how did you come up with that name? And there's another story. He was like, he just threw it out of a hat, and he had to come up with something. It's a long story with that one, but the same thing. I always like to ask people. People ask me, how did you come up with Cyber Trading University? You know what I mean? Same thing. So. You know, even with me, I was just like, if anybody doesn't know, back then, everything was the internet, you know, and back then everyone was buying the .coms. Yeah, I was trying to get day trading university, whatever it is. So I'm like, what could I relate it to into the internet? So we were all cyber traders. So I was able to just get that little close, but Benzinga was a great product. But how long has Benzinga been around for now? How many years has it been now?
2011, I want to say, is when we started. 2010, maybe officially, depending on when the paperwork was signed. I've been around this ecosystem since 2014.
Wow.
I started as a customer, and then I started working here in 2019. That's really when it exploded, because I was put in a position where I could help expand the offering. And what I had been doing every day up until then was trading myself and talking to other traders. So I had a wealth of ideas and information and things where we could move in the next direction here to just kind of give one of those packages that can help everybody. You know, you mentioned Bloomberg there at the top. Part of the goal of our entire company, not just Pro, but Benzinga as a whole, is to try and raise the tide for the retail investor. You know, the pros have been using the terminal, the Bloomberg terminal, since it's been around, and it always feels like they have an advantage. Our goal here was to try and give someone a resource, give the retail trader specifically a resource that they could use that kind of levels the playing field for them. I like to think we've done that. I've actually talked over these years now, I've talked with several folks who have used Terminal or you currently use Terminal, and they have said, this is great. This is like, I understand it's like a Bloomberg Lite, but there's a lot of stuff that you can use in here. It's really awesome. And it's really helped me to kind of change the way I prepare and then look at the market.
You know what? I don't think anyone here had ever experienced a Bloomberg machine. I had one at one point, but it was in the office because back then it was like a $2,000 machine.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Great monitor, stainless steels. Like he really went, if you know Bloomberg, one of the richest people in the world. But he had a monopoly. And that's the issue with a lot of these companies. And some people think like, you can't compete with these people. You got out of your mind. I'm like, and then here comes Benzinga out of nowhere. Like, we're going to come out with news. Because as a day trader, I always had people come up to me and like, we always, we traded on news too. And but the problem is like, you need the Bloomberg machine because they were the first, because that's what you get what you pay for. But then, you could see like, hey, listen, if it's 30 seconds delayed, we're not looking to hit the hard, I don't need that exact moment earnings. Like some people here just whatever. And I was so happy when Benzinga came out, and we were a huge fan of it since they've been around. But if you look at 2010, what is that? That's we talk about 15 years now. That's not, it's a very young company,
Yeah, and the other thing is about that latency that you were just talking about. We have done nothing but improve that since we started. So, like even some of the press release wires that are in there as sources, those are the same press release wires that you're getting in Terminal. It's done via an API. You're getting it at the same time. So it's the whole thing here is that it's so much more affordable. There's so many more people can get access to tools that at least feel like they're professional, or tools that were modeled off of what professionals use, I should say.
Yeah, it's just not news. It's like, it's everything else. You have the chart platform, you get everything on there. But you know what I love about you, Ryan, and there's some people in here, and obviously you have Lynn and Randy, which are huge fans of yours. Actually, they're the ones that they came to Cybertrade University because of you, huge fans. I know they met you a few times.
Yeah, I've been working with Lynn and Randy for a long time. So I echo your shout out.
But what's nice about it is that what gives you, makes you do really well in any business, that you are a customer, and just shows you that when you love the product, you learn so much how you grow with a company. And even with us, I mean, a lot of our students became instructors, and they started going on their own and stuff like that, which is great. It's not like someone just hired you like, oh, I'm going to hire Ryan and stuff like that. So, when you believe in a product that much and that great, that just shows you a lot of how what a great company. Now, regarding about the Benzinga platform, I mean, now you're basically, you basically have evolved, working there, and now you're running a morning show there, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to working directly with the product, I interface with the product. I shoot the tutorial videos for the product. I talk to the customers that use the product, and then interface with the development team on the product. In addition to that, I've actually now done a morning show where we get people ready for the market. Then we do a little trading with them. And the core tool of what we're using there is Benzinga PRO. This can help you aggregate news articles. You can either just read the headline and kind of get an idea of what's going on, or you can actually dive into the article. There's multiple scanners, some of which I have set up for just the pre-market. A big thing for me is being aware of what's going on. And I joked about this actually this morning. I have tried to predict the future. I even bought a magic 8-ball, and sometimes that gets the future wrong. So it doesn't work, right? So what we've got to do is we've got to prepare ourselves every day. I don't know what's coming, but I know how I'm going to go through that. I know how I'm going to analyze all of this information. And the result of that then tells me how I'm going to trade. It comes down to the entire trying to make this a mechanical process so that I'm doing less thinking and more just reacting and whatever the plan is that day.
Which I want to lead to that. And so you're running this show and you're doing your morning, because we do the same thing. We've been doing it for 35 years. And, I always tell everybody, like, you got to find a good group of people that you like, and it's your style, so you got to go out there. You got to sample a couple of different people. You could listen to a couple of shows here and there, but you can't do this on your own. So anyone out there that's listening that, is thinking they're going to go out there and try to just sit in their basement with their 15,000 monitors and everything. It doesn't work. You got to be part of a team, and you want to license, which is great. That's why I always, envy you for what you've done, because, there's some bad actors in this industry and there's some great people. And that's why, I'm glad that you're giving the knowledge. Now, regarding over the years of teaching now, because I know now you became more of an educator, the listeners, regarding about trading, like whatever the challenges have you encountered with some of the people out there that are having issues in trading? Anything you've been advising them with, any problems?
So the biggest problem that I see is folks that are just, I want to say a lack of confidence, but that's not actually it. The biggest problem is that people often don't feel like, okay, I know what to do in this case. If stock, I'm going to try and keep it as general as possible here. If stock XYZ, if I bought it at $8 and it runs up to $12, what do I do? That's the biggest problem. Traders not knowing what to do. And it's great, just kind of tying that back to Benzinga. If I've got all this news and I've got all this information, that's only one part of the equation. The other part of that equation is execution. So one of the things that I've seen over the years here is it's great. You've started, but you really kind of have to refine that process. And that's why I was just talking to you about trying to turn this into a mechanical process, because as soon as I let my emotions and my brain do too much, it does too much. And then I kind of cloud the situation, right? So I want to keep it as mechanical as possible. And the other thing I wanted to hit on real quick is you talked about not being able to do this alone. Just so you're aware, when I first started this, that's exactly what I did. I did it alone. And then I found FinTwit, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of really good information. There's always going to be bad actors in whatever you do. My life philosophy is to just kind of focus on the positive, try to be glass half full, and put that energy out, because you'll end up getting that back. So when it comes to some of the bad actors on Twitter at the time, X, whatever, you just kind of filter that out. There's tons of good stuff in there, and that's kind of what I focused on. So I started by myself, but I realized, man, there's a community out there. And as soon as I joined Benzinga, they gave me more tools to expand that community. Just circling back to tie this all together to the show in the morning, I'm extremely happy because I don't really care about the size of the show. It doesn't need to have 1 million, subscribers or whatever. What I do care about is the quality of the show. And I've done a job, or a good enough job, to where the people that come in, they know there are no such things as stupid questions. They know that it doesn't matter what level they're at yet. There are things that you can pick up, and then there are things that you can give back. I'm always trying to promote talking to others. So again, getting back to the whole group thing, don't do this alone. Talk to others. There's always really good information that you can get from people. But I've got it to such a point now where I actually get trading ideas from the chat. Because they're all looking at their own things. They got eyeballs that I don't have. They're looking at scanners that I don't have. And I actually get ideas from them. So it's become this full circle now where, yeah, sure, there was some education and some idea generation early on. But now it's a two-way street. It's not me telling people what to do. It's a group interacting with one another, telling people what to do. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've stuck around and grown.
Yeah, and I always tell everybody that's why, like, when I started, like you said, I started from my house. I blew up about 2 accounts. You know what I mean? My dad's like, I was 22 years old. I was a little kid. I mean, I'm 53 now.
I was trading OTC pot stocks, bro. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, finally he says, go get a job in the city, go work for somebody, and make sure you work for somebody that really knows what they're doing, and learn from the people that are bad at it, so you don't make those stupid mistakes. Yeah. And sure enough, let me tell you, Ryan, first day on the job, when I was sitting there, because back then we didn't have the technology we had. We didn't have these trading rooms. And then let me tell you, what I saw what these people were doing, I'm like, my God, how could you even think of trying to do this on your own without having a team? It's like trying to run a restaurant and think you're the chef, the maitre d', the waiter, the busboy. It ain't gonna work. But but yeah, like you say, you get great ideas for somebody. Someone sees something, they say something. You just need a good captain, to take you where the fish are. And listen, some people are gonna catch the big one, some people will not. But as long as you got a good team on that ship, you're gonna kill it. Now, regarding about the Benzinga platform now, now over the years, what has changed? I mean, what's new that's coming? Anything new that people looking at? I mean, or is it you modifying or anything like that? Or
Yeah, I know we have a time crunch here, so I'm going to do my best to be as brief as possible because you just asked. I could go for an hour with the question that you just asked me. First of all, how has this changed? When this first started, it was a very old school looking newswire. That's it. I mean, if for any of you that remember back from like 2012, 2013, before we did our first facelift, it was old looking and it was just news. It was just a news line on top of a news line. Well, it turned out that there were other, and there was also the Squawk, obviously the Charles Gross on the audio Squawk. I mean, there's nobody else like him. He's the best in the biz when it comes to that. It was those two things, and we've really evolved over time because we spent time listening to our customers. We would ask them all of the time. You can ask Lynn and Randy. They'll tell you. We would say, what is it that you want? And kudos to Lynn and Randy because they tell me all of the time some of the things that they want. And we're able to add those there. So I think the big key there was we've evolved by listening to our customers. Now, what did we evolve by doing? Well, of course, we're going to try and increase the speed in which we're able to get news and then redistribute news. We're going to try and hire more writers to produce more news, reach out to more companies. We actually do exclusive news stories with some of the smaller cap companies now, which is not something that we did when we first started. Then we also started to add tools for the end trader, scanners, whether it's the mover scanner that was very, very popular when it first came out, to the full-blown scanner, which we're still adding to this day. We tried to just put based on what people were asking about on a regular basis, we tried to say, you know what, we've got news and we're pretty good with it. We're pretty lightning fast, which was our tagline for a long time. Now we're going to start surrounding that with other components. So I compare this to a house, right? You build a foundation, you build a ground floor. That's great. But now you're going to start adding other stuff onto it, maybe another level, maybe a couple more rooms, maybe something like that. That's where we're at right now. So how has it evolved? More, better quality information from the source, faster latency on all of those sources to the best of our ability, and then more tools for the end user to use. That's how I would sum it up.
So now there's so many news companies out there, right? And just like us, like where we compete with other people, like what makes you different than one person? You know, what makes like why would I not go with Bloomberg? Why should I go with Benzinga? I mean, I know the answer to that. You know, it's this. You know, but other than that, you're not Bloomberg, and there's a reason why. So, but maybe you could explain to people, like, you know, because it gets listed all the time, just like software. You know, why should I go with Trade Ideas or go with any other company? Why, you know, or I have my brokerage firm that has it anyway. What makes one different than the other? So what makes your news different than anyone else?
Okay, so first of all, our news, you're going to be able to get more of it. So it doesn't matter if the news originates at a Dow Jones Newswire or originates on Reuters or originates on Wall Street Journal or hell, one of our own writers. It doesn't matter. We're going to give you all of it, and then we're going to let you pick and choose. And that leads me into the second thing that differentiates us. Everyone here that has a brokerage account, I don't know what brokerages you have, but I'd be willing to bet that somewhere in that the platform that you have is a news feed, some way of delivering some news to you. But you have very, very limited options. You have, in a lot of cases, very limited sources, although we license our news now to those very brokers.
Yeah, I know you've been doing that for a while.
Okay, we have been doing that for a while. So the big thing here is that you can actually control the flow. And one of the things that I'm going to show you here is how you can manipulate the newsfeed tool to do vastly different things. So in addition to having more flow, you can control.
Why don't you show that? Let's share that with the people and get that up and running. So as you're showing it.
Let me go ahead and share my screen right here. Benzinga PRO. Okay, this was actually the movers tool from the beginning. But let me show you what I mean here on with just the newsfeed. Here is one of my favorite workspaces, and there's nothing flashy about it. There's no flashing colored lights. There's no alert bells or anything like that. But this is extremely helpful and saves me a incalculable amount of time in the morning. All right. So what I have here on the left is, oh, you know what? I've actually got to adjust some of my sources here. What I have here on the right, excuse me, is all of the big news. So like we had the JOLTS job openings data print here today. Any morning that I know that there's going to be a data print, this is one of the things that I keep handy because it's going to be posted here in real time. In addition to all of the market moving news just in one space, I literally took this news feed and I took all the news that it gets and I said, only show me the big news. And it was easy to do. You just filter your news feed for SPY. Anything that's big or market related, data print, something like that, we're going to tag it as SPY. So the actual lift on my end was very, very small. But the end result here is I know exactly where to go, where I'm going to have all of that big news just aggregated for me in one spot. It's also very easy to find here. Also worth noting, I don't know of any other I don't know how Bloomberg handles this or anyone else. Once I have this set up, if there's a keyword that I was looking for, I could actually just simply add that. So I'm going to do keyword factory here, and then I'm going to change this to and now I have all of the big news that applies to SPY that also includes the word factory in it. Look at that. The U.S. factory orders print from this morning is at the top of the list. So the reality is that you can manipulate this feed any way that you want. Here's another example. Just to the left of that, I have a chronological list of reasons why stocks are moving. That's it. That's all it is. There's no alerts here. It's not going to tell me what to buy or when to sell. But what it is going to do is it's going to tell me what's moving. So if all of a sudden I come back from lunch or I wake up in the morning or God forbid I have a meeting here for my 9-to-5 job and I come back and I just want to say, what on earth is going on? I know exactly where to go for that. It takes me no time at all to figure out what's going on. The other thing here is that how many times, Fausto, have you and your group seen something moving in the morning that you guys have looked to trade, and then you saw something else related to that move later on? Does that happen to you?
Well, if the basket of stocks, yeah, absolutely.
This is where this tool comes in extremely handy, because all of a sudden, you'll be focused on one. I do this all the time. Maybe you're better at this than I am. I do this all the time. I focus in on one stock, or I'm watching something, or I'm waiting for a specific level or something specific to happen. And then something else over here starts happening. It's this news feed that's often going to tell me, hey, stock XYZ is moving in sympathy, possibly on this report that affected the other stock earlier in the day, whatever it is. And it just helps me kind of direct my attention to where I'm going so I can spend more time focusing on the execution.
Yeah, like I'm just looking over here on my execution system. Like, the quantum stocks made some pretty good moves. Yeah, like also Lynn in the chat room on YouTube right now is talking about Archer. So a lot of the drone stocks we've been trading. Listen, one thing like you just mentioned about this election, this president is, you hear these people that come out and they're like, believe nothing what they say and nothing what you hear. They just once they get elected, they sit there on cruise control. And this person like, oh no, what he said, he's actually doing it. And then now these people taking it seriously in the stock market. Now, you might not like him, some love him, but us as traders, we need volatility. And so if there's something coming out, what's the biggest news that everyone doesn't even change? We always talk about, the Fed rate. The Fed rate is like once every month, whatever it is. This is like every like 30 minutes.
Yeah. And go back to Trump 1.0, right? Where he talked about Kodak, a stock that had been dead for how many years? And then all of a sudden that stock is now in play multiple days in a row. I got news for you. It doesn't matter what you think about him as a person. If he's moving stocks, then you want to be able to, at a minimum, follow what he's causing to move and then hopefully make some money off of that. So that is what we're getting here now, and doesn't require you to feel a certain way one way or another. So
now, regarding about the platform in general, I meant to ask you. So I got one of my students emailed me this. I meant to ask you: are you guys going to be coming out with a app version?
So this is a question. This is a really good question. You should pat your student on the back. Maybe give him some extra credit if you do that. Yes, at some point we are looking into porting this from a web-based access, which it is right now, into a downloadable app. Just so you all are aware, there's a couple of issues with that. Number one, everyone's computer is a little bit different. There are multiple operating systems. You just create more friction by doing that for your company here. The other thing is that would be a substantial project, because when this was first designed, it was designed to be web-based in general. So in order to then make that change, there needs to be some significant work, both on the back end and almost a complete redesign of the front end. So that's a big project.
Yeah,
we have at this point now, we have realized that there is probably some other latency things that we can benefit from if we do port that. The other thing is that if you have a machine and you're able to download an app, it might run better natively on that machine than it does in the web browser. So that's definitely something for the future. I don't even have an estimation for you for that. Now, the caveat to that is that we did develop a mobile app. And while the mobile app is not a complete Pro port into an app, it actually does synchronize some things with it. So for example, if you set up some alerts, you can get some of those alerts on your mobile device. If you step away from the computer, you could still get some of those mobile alerts. You can listen to Squawk on your mobile device. This was a big one.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm not going to tell on anybody, but we got a number of people that said, hey, I'm still working a job. And, when the boss looks the other way, I can listen to an earbud. It'd be awesome if I could listen to Squawk. So that's what we did.
Listen to Ryan. I want to listen to Ryan.
You could do. Hey, if it comes down to listening to me or listening to Charles, please listen to Charles, because that guy's been doing it for over 2 decades and he's dialed as it gets. Our show is definitely great for the morning, but in terms of just raw speed and data, Charles Gross is the top. He's the absolute top. So you can listen to Squawk. There's also access to our chat rooms. We spend a lot of time talking about the community that we're both building up on our own here. Well, we give you access to that community through that app. So there, and then furthermore, you can actually use Pro on your mobile device. It will detect that you're on a mobile device and it will change the experience for you. So it's a long way of answering the question. There's a mobile app now that does have some crossover functionality that you might benefit from. Yes, this is something that we've talked about. It is way in the future, though. It's not on the near-term roadmap.
So what new is coming on the desktop version that you guys have, on the web version? Anything new that's anything different or any tweaking that you've made? I know we all have bugs here and there and stuff like that. Anything?
Absolutely. So I actually want to show you some of that. We actually just recently released a new version that had a couple of things. One of the requests that we have been getting from folks there, can you give us something like a morning update of some of the easy stuff that Briefing used to give? Apparently, they used to send out this email, or some other. Then maybe there was another company that did it. I'm not too sure. And we thought to ourselves, God, yeah, of course we can do that. We have all this data already. We should have done this already. So if you actually click on the profile icon in the upper right corner and you select Morning Update, it will launch the morning update. And what this is just a 1-page primer for you to get ready. In fact, this is how I start my day every single day. Also, if you click on the gear cog at the top, you can have it load automatically so that you don't have to go through that menu. This will just be the first thing that you're greeted with every time that you refresh this. But this is great because this gives you an idea of everything that's going on. Right here, we're going to show you some of the pre-market indices. This will let you know what the market is doing prior to the market even opening. We'll give you some of the important economic data. This will be weighted by its importance. So the most important ones should be at the top. You've got the JOLTS job openings up there at the top. Remember, this is designed to be used in the morning prior to the market's open. So you're only being shown the estimate here. You can, of course, use our calendar or our news feed to get the actual data, but this at least gives you an estimate so you know where to go. We'll also tell you about company events. This is important because sometimes some of these companies make news at events, whether it's NVIDIA at Computex or Bros here, which has been really hot. They're going to be at the Global Consumer Technology and Services Conference tomorrow. I'm sure you guys have looked at a Bros chart recently. This stock has been an absolute monster. Maybe keep that on watch for tomorrow. One of the other things that we do here is we tell you if there are any IPOs here for today. All right. And today there wasn't, but there were a couple of recently. There was a WTF about a month ago. There was a Top W. There were a couple of these China IPOs that actually were the stock du jour for the day traders.
That's very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll tell you every day if there's new IPOs coming. We'll give you a little a preview here of analyst initiations. And of course, these containers are scrollable when you put your mouse in there. We'll give you analyst initiations, downgrades, upgrades, and then also earnings. And these earnings too should be weighted by importance. So when it comes in the morning, I don't know about you, Fausto, but in the morning, I am pressed for time because that market always opens at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern every day. It's never late. And sometimes real life gets in the way and I'm late. So being able to do as much of this as possible, as quickly as possible is paramount. This is a really good jumping off point for everybody, just to kind of set the stage for what is ahead here. This was something that there were multiple people that asked for directly. So we went ahead and added that. Now,
that's a nice tool.
Yeah, it really is. And it's really quick. I know it's very, very lightweight, but it's really good at kind of preparing.
Does it have like a percentage gainer and loser to it? Like you're showing what's moving in the market and pre-market? Like
it's basically, so there's no way for you to select the different things that are moving. This is just going to show you what the indices are doing. So the SPY, the Qs, the Dow, Bitcoin, oil, gold, small caps. If you wanted to see individual stocks that were moving, we of course have a tool that we have devoted to that called the movers. And I keep this in its own workspace paired with my details tool set to the pre-market, so that, for example, here's today. Did you guys trade INVF today?
Yeah, it was pretty volatile stock. It was a big percentage gain, up to 35. It just tanked. We could talk about that all day, but like pre-market 630 had some big resistance levels, and then it just consolidated. Thing just tanked.
It actually looked like it's putting an inverse head and shoulders here on the intraday chart. How about TRA? How about MCTR? All of these stocks that were in play today were in this list early on, or I should say, perhaps most of them, maybe not all of them.
Yeah, the big one started to move. The big one that we traded that did really well, I think it's on your list, is Run, RUN. That one moved up pretty nicely. That one, just a really nice trend. I was teaching this in class.
This is perfect. I'm so glad that you said this, Fausto. I'm sorry for running you over there, but you got me so excited here. This is a perfect example of why the different tools in Pro are so helpful. This stock right here, if you just look at my screen here, this gold area represents the pre-market area. This had very little movement in the pre-market. So if we look at my pre-market list here, which is sorting by stocks that are moving, you're not really seeing it. But one of the things that I do here is when the market actually opens, I use a different tool, and I use the scanner tool. And my scanner, the way I have it set up, is to look for intraday relative volume. So what do you think happened when runs started to really trade here today? What do you think happened when volume poured in hand over fist after the market opened and this thing kept moving higher? Yeah, it got triggered by the scanner. That's exactly right.
That's a cool tool.
So
I think we use that tool.
What's that?
We use that tool in our trading room.
Good. Perfect. And so this actually leads me to the next thing that we've done that's new. We are constantly adding to the scanner. So we've got a ton of great filters in here right now. You're probably familiar with all of them. I can't even possibly go through the list. It's so long. And this is actually a little crowded here. Let me open it in its own thing so it's easier for your viewers to see. We are constantly adding to this tool. I get asked all the time, Fausto, why does your scanner say that it's in beta? And the reason it says that is because our development team is constantly working at this. It's not a finished product, folks. We're going to continue to add new things to it. And chances are, even if you didn't ask for it, somebody else might ask for what you were looking for, and we'll probably add it.
As long as it's not alpha.
Say again?
As long as it's not an alpha.
It's not an, oh yeah, it's not. Yeah, okay, so sorry, it took me a sec there. We actually will let you test some alpha products, but you have to go to our beta branch. We'll save that for another pod. One of the things that I will say here, or one of the new things that we added to this tool that folks really, really love, they said, we want an easy way to scan for momentum. Fausto, I'm sure you have your own credentials for what makes a stock have positive momentum or good value, whether it's price to earnings or PE or whatever it is that you look for.
You just look for orders, actually.
Okay, we made it extremely simple to scan for this stuff in Pro, and this is new. So if you just go to the search bar inside the filters menu of the scanner and you type in ranking, we have a momentum, value, quality, and growth ranking. And you can use this to scan. This is a number 0 through 100, 100 being the best or highest and 0 being the worst. If I said, I want to find stocks that are really trading on very high momentum, I'm going to put a minimum value of 90 in there. Boom. I just cut the stock market down from 7,700 stocks to 606. Just on that. Okay, we want to add some growth. Let's have this be a high growth stock too. Let's actually put 90 in here. We can start layering these on. Now I'm down to 84 stocks. So you don't even really need to say, okay, well, I have a combination of price to sales and a specific value for price to earnings, and it's got to have, book value of this, that. You don't have to do any of that. It's easy. You can just use these, and this will help narrow you down. It'll help give you a list of stocks. You can sort all of these results results based on all of this. So if you want to see what has the highest momentum rating in here, let me just go do that here. 99.59. It's P6, PSIX. So that one I'm not familiar with, but the third one on the list, I'm sure you're all familiar with. It is in fact Palantir.
We play all day long. We played ETFs, Palantir, PLTU, all that.
All the levered ETFs. On the details page, we also tell you what the trend is, the short, medium, and long-term trend. Oh, and by the way, if you wanted to scan for that, yeah, you can do that too. Just type in trend, and now you can scan for stocks that are in a specific trend and have rankings or one or the other. So we've constantly added to the scanner to try and A, make it more valuable so you can scan for more specific things, but B, also make it easier to use.
Well, just to let everybody know, that's some of the things, even in our trading room, we use these platforms ourselves. And that's why I wanted Ryan to be here, because like sometimes you ask, well, how did you find this stock, find that stock? I'm always scanning, Josh is scanning, Rich is always scanning on the Benzinga platform. And just let everybody know, it's the only platform we really use when it comes down to it. I mean, there are other ones out there, you hear this one. This is an old one. I'm going to go back. What makes you different than Zacks?
Okay, I never use Zacks, so you got me there. But
yeah.
I can tell you here that it's gonna just be the quantity of information. Like Zacks had a whole bunch of good rating data, I believe, in the past.
Yeah, they had news and stuff like that. But like what I'm saying, they were also trying to compete. But I'm just trying to tell everybody that, like, if anyone heard of those Zacks or any, big charts, whatever it is, they had the news and everything. It's a totally different platform. I used them all, and believe me, and like I'm not a fan, Ryan, like listen, I have X amount of hours a day. There's everyone's always asking me, could you talk about this, talk that? I really want to get involved. There's only very few of them. And like I said, the Benzinga, when I was screwing around with this, I'm like, there's really nothing more than what you need. So you got a little heat map going on right now, huh?
You have a custom graph tool. This I actually keep for the three indices, the SPY, the Dow, and the Qs. It'll draw a heat map here. But more than just this will actually draw a heat map of whatever you want. You can also have it draw a Sankey graph or a waterfall graph or a pie graph. So if you're trying to visualize any of the raw data that we're giving you here in Pro, there are actually tools to help you visualize that. Now, I keep the heat map one here because it's really easy to use, gives me a good idea of what's going on and where pockets of strength are in the market on a regular basis. But again, this just all comes back to every tool in here that we give you is going to be customizable for you. So if you look at something and you say, this is great, but it would be great if we could do this, you probably can.
The problem with these platforms, Ryan, I always find, and this is where a lot of people are probably going to agree with me, and you probably understand, you being educated, you'll know this. They get confusing after a while. Like I always tell everyone, 80% of what they offer, you really don't need. For me, it's just my style, Yep. So like, are there templates where someone's like, why do I got to figure this out? I got to learn this one. I mean, because you can go down a rabbit hole with this thing. You know what I mean? Like, and then it becomes technical analysis paralysis, all that. So like, how do you kind of simplify it where somebody just say, okay, can you just give me a basic template? Is there basic templates that someone could start off and then grow on that one?
Yeah, so you could not be more correct with everything that you just said from start to finish right there. And yes, there are ways to make it easier. First, a couple of things. The ethos of what we're trying to do here is we're trying to serve a very wide customer base. So you have to understand that we're going to get a lot of feedback, some of which you might not need. You're correct. You don't need to do everything. And I caution people, don't force yourself into that. Don't make it feel like you need to do everything or you're not getting your money's worth, because that's not true. You might have a very, very specific system where you can exploit data and use it in your favor. And if that's what you're doing, giddy up. Now, to the second part of your question about, is there some of this stuff that's pre-created? Yes, as a matter of fact, that there is. So right here, all I did was I clicked the plus to create a new workspace. And when I did this before to load up the scanner or the movers tool for you, I just selected it from the list here. But we also have a ton of presets. So for example, if I click on Market Overwatch, that heat map, that triple layout of the heat map, it's here. You don't have to learn how to set it up. Just click the go button, the launch button. You can do the same thing here for sector. Okay. If you go back to all of them, the day trading workspace, that one I just showed you with the scanner and the options flow, it's already pre-built for you. It's right here. It's called day trading. We had a really creative name for it, Fausto. We called it day trading. The other thing here is there's domain there's domain intel in here too. So for example, if you just wanted to kind of get new, you had said earlier, you had said drones are going, and I actually have a drone stock that technically looks pretty good. It is starting to move right now. Here, look, drones happens to be one of the domain intels in here. You can launch this workspace. It will go ahead and create a workspace that utilizes lists of stocks that fit into this. We call it a vertical, but it's basically a category, and it builds some of these tools here for you. Now, do you have to stay with this? Of course not. You can edit, add, subtract, change any of this stuff that you want. You can do all of that, but this is a really good starting off point. And you'll notice if you go back to that menu, or if we don't have to do it here, but when customers spend some time with that, there are a ton of these, and we are constantly adding to these. So you might know what you want to do. This can really kind of help you. A lot of this stuff is pre-built for you.
Swing trading, day trading.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you can start with some of the templates. And again, you're not married to that. So tinker with it so that it works for you.
Good. All right. Anything, any last minute things you want to kind of do before we, do want to mention about it?
Yeah, I mean, my big thing here, so real quick, and I'll do this in under a minute, okay? This is about speed and customizability. I start with a morning report. I get a lay of the land of all of the stuff that's going on. Okay, next I got to figure out what's going on. So I'm going to take a look at the big news. I'm going to take a look at reasons why stocks are moving, maybe from yesterday when I was having dinner, when I stepped away from my computer. I also have this news feed down here set to filter for exclusive news. So if we're doing something as an exclusive, I know we're the first to react to it. I get that ready, and then I go over to my movers scanner. I saw a question here. Do you use the movers window like with the scanner? I use the movers tool in the pre-market because it is extremely easy to figure this. To me, Fausto, we are looking at the best gap tool out there. If I click Gainers Pre-Market in Session, I'm being shown a list of stocks that are going to be your gapping stocks with your biggest one at the top and the smallest one at the bottom. It's literally 3 clicks. It could not get easier. And what I do from here is I click on each of these. Oh, I want to know, why is NIVF moving today? Well, Pro told me. I didn't even have to click on news. It just told me right at the top here why it's moving. I'm looking at the chart here. The inverse head and shoulders on the 5-minute literally jumped off the chart, so I drew it on there to remind myself, and I go down this list here. So I prepare, I look at the stocks that are going to gap using the movers tool. Then when the market opens, I flip over to my main day trading workspace, and I'm off and running. I've built the process out so that it's just a couple of clicks, and then I'm just consuming the information and hopefully making and focusing on the successful trades that are being presented to me.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So regarding about everybody getting a piece of it, we've been using this platform forever, and I really like you guys get a demo of it. I'm just going to post up. You got the link up there in the top right-hand corner. I'll post this up for you guys right here, but we're going to have Ryan back again. We know we do a Cyber Expo. He'll do another big demonstration, but if anybody would like to get a demo of the product, just take your phone, scan the QR code right there in the middle, and we'll send it over to you. So, and we'll post up the link right there also up on the chat room. You can just click on it and go from there and try it. Listen, there's a lot of new services out there, everything else. If you're in our trading room, you see, we talk about it all the time. I'm not a fan of a lot of them. You can't be a jack of all trades, but, obviously having a reputation as Benzinga, definitely, try it out. I mean, like I said, so when you're in our trading room and we're using it, and what's great about it for some of you as students of ours, we do a lot of coaching and we'll help you set it up too. So instead of you trying to figure it out and stuff like that, we'll tell you the way we set it up.
And that's also something that I offer, Fausto. So if someone had a question about how to use a specific tool after I disappear here, of course you can email me, and I'd be happy to help out any of your students as well.
Always look great. Well, Ryan, listen, thank you so much for coming here, and look forward to having you coming up for the next big event that we have, our Cyber Expo. It's our biggest one of the year. And everyone, like I said, please scan that QR code, click on that link, and we'll get you a demo. And Ryan, we got to have you back. I love talking to you, man. You're amazing, and keep up the good work. Looking forward. Your show is awesome. I hear great stuff about it. Students love it, and I'll see you then.
Likewise, man. I appreciate the kind words. You do a great job too. Speaking of Lynn and Randy, they speak very, very highly of you. So really appreciate that. Happy to come back anytime.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. And we'll be back here tomorrow for another podcast at Cyber Trading Traders. And we'll see you back. And some of you I'll see you this afternoon regarding them do some live trading. So See you soon, everyone. Click on that link, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.